Let's see now. Hello, everyone. This is I, the Goof. I'm going to be talking kind of calm in this video. Um, I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as possible. Um, I was going through some frustrations, or so I would have gotten this out sooner, but this is basically a reaction to the 6th producer letter for Action Game Maker. And it has to do with assets and resources. Producer letter number 6, asset and resources. Let's get into it, and then I'll give my thoughts. I want to get through it as quickly as possible. Hello again, everyone. Action Game Maker producer, I have weird pronunciation, producer, Morno here. We've received a lot of comments leading up to this 6th letter, and I'd like to thank you all. Some of the comments have been asking about how to get ready for the launch and what kind of assets Action Game Maker will support. Let me just kind of interject real quick. If you know anything about Godot, look up Godot. Mostly it's the same. Mostly, yeah. So today we'll go over what kind of assets and resources are supported. Visual, audio, and video assets all have different formats. And so we'll cover the default formats available out of the box, as well as details about the assets included with purchase. So let's get started. General information, supported resolutions. As with Pixel Game Maker MV, Action Game Maker supports custom resolution input. So you can make small resolution or full 4K projects, I should say, if desired. But the default included assets are designed for a 960 by 540 image scaled to a resolution of 1920 by 1080. The output resolution. So a quick explanation of that. Basically what they mean is it's meant to fit, if when stretched out, equally just kind of fit the 1080p aspect ratio. And that's the stuff that they're shipping with it when you buy it. Like that's what's there, but you can do whatever you want with it. Okay. So if you're like me and you're making something more pixely, lower resolution, you can do that. Like I tend to use a resolution around 240 by 400 tends to be my resolution or something. It's a what if 16-bit consoles were widescreen kind of format. And we've actually seen a few games use this format, I believe. I believe Shovel Knight is one of those games that use that format, as well as some of the two Bloodstained games that came out that look like NES games. So, yeah, just letting that out there for y'all. You can do full super HD kind of stuff, or you can do, pixel art kind of stuff. I'm trying to get words out here. Supported image formats. Bitmap, PNG, JPEG, SVG, and WebP are all supported by default, so you shouldn't have any issues getting your image into Action Game Maker. The default assets are primarily provided in PNG for ease of use and easy editing. When creating your own original assets for an Action Game Maker project, we suggest using SVG or WebP formats due to their compression ratio and support of transparency data. Let me interject again. PNG isn't that big of a format, really. They're not that big. They're a lot smaller than Bitmap. And PNG also supports, this is what's getting me, transparency effect, data. PNG has that too. I'm trying to understand this. WebP is not very good. I don't know who came up with that format, but every time I download something in WebP, it's garbage. Like it's worse than JPEG. The quality is just bad. I don't know who came up with it, but I hate you. I just want the person to know who came up with WebP. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. It's worse than JPEG. Moving on. Objects. Let's see, where was I? had to pause the recording for a moment. Objects. So objects are the thing that you can export and import within projects. Basically, it's not something that is imported strictly. It is something created and then exported and then re-imported. So Godot treats objects using the scene format. Each scene is saved as a TSCN file. This makes it very easy to export or import objects. This is because animation, scripting, and other node settings are all saved within the scene file. However, this could be subject to change in future versions, as image and sound resources are not included and have a fixed path. They're talking about when you're exporting and re-importing, it doesn't include the image or the sound. So the object won't have any of that, which means you have to re-import it and figure that out. That seems awfully bad. I don't know how else to put it. It doesn't seem like a good idea. Anyhow, you will need to manually add this missing information to the exported or imported data. Action GameMaker does allow the use of GDScript in addition to our custom visual scripting system. They call it scripting. It's a flowchart. It's what Pixel GameMaker uses. But yes, you can use both freely within a single project, but C support is not available at this time. At this time means maybe they'll try and implement it later, but we'll see. Regarding plugins, any plugin that is designed to work with default Godot is expected to work with Action GameMaker. As Action GameMaker's additional functions are closed source, any plugin or function changes that require a recompile of Godot are not supported for use with Action GameMaker. I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like that's not necessarily a good idea. I'm just saying. However, any plugin that can be used with the official build of Godot should work with Action GameMaker. Indeed, while there may be some compatibility testing needed, feels like needed should be right there, to ensure that there are no conflicts with Action GameMaker's changes, all Godot 4.3 plugins for the 2D pipeline are expected to work. More information about Godot's plugin system can be found here. We're not going to look at it, but yeah. I'm actually going to do a separate video where I go through each of these and click them and talk about them in more depth. But let's keep going. Graphics. Tiles. The included tile sets are 24 by 24 tiles designed to be used with Godot's tilemap node, or tilemap layer node. And of course, they have another link to that. Tilemap layer has no size limits, so sizes like 8 by 8 or up to 48 by 48 are supported, but you're free to use unusual sizes as in aspect ratios, like rectangular 16 by 64 tiles or whatever your project needs. Additionally, if you separate them into layers, it is possible to mix the tile sizes resolutions in a single scene. So it's more than possible to use both 24 by 24 tiles and 48 by 48 tiles simultaneously. In addition, thanks to the power of Godot, Action GameMaker supports the following tile layouts. And these are other than the typical layouts, by the way. This is, and I didn't even know about this. Like I said, I haven't said it, but I should have said it. I've been, excuse my language, dicking around with, where was I? Additionally, if you separate them into layers, it is possible to mix the tile sizes, resolutions in a single scene. So it's more than possible to use both 24 by 24 tiles and 48 by 48 tiles simultaneously. In addition, thanks to the power of Godot, Action GameMaker supports the following tile layouts. I didn't know anything about this. I dicked around, like I was saying, I dicked around with Godot, but I hadn't figured this stuff out. Mostly I blame the Godot interface. It is a very technical interface. It feels like it's built for technical people, not for casual average users. It's a huge problem that Godot has. And I feel like you need somebody to come in who's not technical to come in and say, hey, why don't you do this with the interface? Why don't you do that with the interface? interface in order to get them to, yeah. So anyhow, so other than the typical, side-by-side squares, you have isometric tiles. You can make something isometric. I didn't even know that was possible. Half offset square. What? Just what? I'm not sure what use that would be, but what? That is interesting. Wow. Hexagon. Hexagon, I don't know why I would use hexagon or why it would be needed, but it's cool. I think it's cool. I think it's great. Somebody will find a use for it, I'm sure. Auto tiles. This is the thing that gets me. And this is what I'm happy about, because early on when they mentioned a auto tile system, I was sure they were going to come up with something of their own. I'm glad to see they haven't. So, they're using something that's built into Action Game Maker. Action Game Maker uses Godot's terrain and terrain tileset functionality. Typically, using terrain tiles requires a manual configuration of tile connections, peering bits, and collision shapes for each tile. However, Action Game Maker can auto-configure peering and collisions as long as the tile image matches our template structure. So if you go with the same structure template, like this, then it's good to go. You don't have to configure it, which this is typical right here. This is fine. This is perfectly fine. I love this. Let me touch on why I love this. I was sure early on they were going to use something like Pixel Game Maker has, which is actually something that RPG Maker has been using since VX. RPG Maker VX, VX Ace, MV, and MZ, or Z if you're from other weird territories, uses a very bizarre auto tile function. It's a very weird layout. It's a weird layout where each tile is an... I don't even know where I was. I got interrupted while I'm recording. Jesus, I keep having to pause the recording. Okay, where was I? So I was talking about why this is better. This is better because unlike the weird auto tile system that the RPG Maker series has been using, this one, it's automatically, if you follow this, it'll work perfectly fine, but it's made in such a way that you can keep the detail you need, if that makes sense to anyone. And when I say keep the detail you need, I mean it's not made of awkward sizes. The RPG Maker series, from VX all the way up to RPG Maker MZ. So VX, VX Ace, MV, and MZ, they all use this funky, weird, and I hate it. It's not practical. It's not very usable. But they all use this auto tile layout that is garbage. It's utter garbage. You can't fit a lot of details. So imagine a square, and each tile inside the square is an awkward space. The very center tile is 16 by 16, we'll say 16 by 16. But then the one right above it is not 16 by 16. It is 16 wide by 8 tall. Then you have the one in the corner, which is only 8 by 8. The one on the side, which is 8 wide and 16 long. And same thing on the other side, same thing in the bottom corner, same thing like this. And you can't fit a lot of information into it. You can't fit a lot of details, what I mean to say. So when you draw, it's always squared looking. The environments are always squared. They're always very blocky looking, which is great, I guess, if you're trying to look like an old Dragon Quest game from long ago. That's fine, I guess. But if you're trying to make something with a, let's say, more organic looking environment, it's useless and it's ugly. People have had to try to find workarounds in the RPG Maker series. In the Pixel Game Maker software, I don't even bother with auto tiles. I do everything tile by tile because the auto tiles are just that terrible. They're that bad. They're just not good. They're not good. I'm sorry. They're not good. They're bad. They're genuinely bad. I don't like using them. So this is what we have here. And if you stick with this layout, it should be configured for you. You don't have to do anything different, but you can do custom layouts. That's the thing about Godot. You can do custom layouts if you want, but if you don't want to have to set the borders and everything and where you can walk and not walk and where things connect, just use what they have here. Like it says, the portions of the tile connected by the red lines represent the connections checked when determining tile placement. Users are able to paint these lines to configure the tile peering. And this is how the auto tile function determines if a tile should be changed when placing tiles into your game world. Note that if a peering extends to the edge of the tile, it can connect to any other tile with a matching peering. So please be careful when configuring your tile set and tile peering. Note that the above image is only an illustration with the peering bit display enabled. The actual tiles look like the image below. This sample, or for this sample I should say, we used 24 by 24 tiles, pixel tiles, but other tile sizes will be supported. So each square you see here inside this thing is 24 by 24. It leaves plenty of room for detail. It is great. This is what the RPG Maker series needs to use, if I'm going to be honest. You can tell I really passionately hate what RPG Maker uses. I really, really hate it. It's terrible. RPG Maker used to use a much better version, actually. They used basically a tile set that would be equal. So it'd be 6, or we'll say 16 by 16, but it'll use 3 wide by 3 tall, 3 tile sets, and it would produce much better results. And that's how it worked in RPG Maker XP, which was ahead of its time, if we're going to be honest. Anyhow, moving on, we got to get through this. I have been going longer than I wanted to. The included character and enemy assets are designed for use with 2D bone animations. You can learn about Godot's 2D bone animation system here. So, again, I'm going to do a video later that talks about each one of these. More than 30 animations, including the skeleton data, is included, so the animations can be quickly customized by changing the texture or sprite data. Texture formatting, the default character uses a 240 by 144 PNG formatted image. The character ends up being size 24 by 32. So 24 wide, 32 tall, I'm guessing. It might be 32 wide, I don't know. After the compositing. Below is a sample of the included characters. Simply replacing the sprites inside the texture file with your own customized version is enough to get started with making an original character. So just replace all these with a custom picture, and it'll work for a custom character if you want to do that. If you want to. Personally speaking, I might not use this system, but if I do use it, it'll be for probably large-scale enemies that move very complexly. Okay, the animation data. All included animation data can be customized or appended to with your own creations. The male character includes a lot of weapon-based melee attacks, while the female character has more of a focus on movement and special abilities. Both are designed for use in Metroidvania-style games. That's one of the things that they said early on, is that they wanted this to have like default like tools so that you can make a Metroidvania, which is basically a short-end way of saying a explorative side-scrolling action game, basically. So it's a game where you explore a lot of areas, and it's side-scrolling action, even some platforming elements. And that's basically the Metroidvania-style games, basically. The animation data is stored in the Godot Trez format. This means that they can be exported or imported into other objects as desired. Just make sure you use the same bone structure to ensure compatibility. Note that the male and female characters do have differences in their bone structures, so the animations are not directly compatible. addition to bone animations, sprite-based animations are also supported. In Action Game Maker, you will need to create the sprite animations using Godot's animation player, as the animated sprite 2D node is not supported. Please see the Godot documentation for information about the animation player. I want to mention something real quick about animated sprite 2D and the animation player. Early on, I got frustrated with it, and I didn't know that there were things that you could do inside it. And so I had a huge issue with it, and I still have some issues with it. Animated sprite 2D is more simplistic, but it doesn't have a lot of features. It's just easier to comprehend for my little monkey brain. And so I was really frustrated to learn that it wasn't supported early on. Like, I've actually read through this before, but I haven't talked about it. The animated sprite 2D is easier to work with, but the animated sprite 2D is lacking features. And even though the animation player has way more features, the interface is cumbersome and frustrating, and I don't like it. And that's my biggest complaint about it. But we'll go over that in a separate video. I really need to go through and talk about each one of these individually on their own. Character images. Character busts included with Action Game Maker are sized 1080 by 1080, and full body images are sized 1272 by 2000. The base, happy, anger, sadness, surprise, and fear expressions are included. Note that due to the large size, these images are in the WebP format. Yeah, so like I said before, they're going to have it early on to where you can make, Metroidvania games, as we call them, which are, again, exported games. Those games tend to have big busts and RPG elements going on and discussions and conversations and whatnot. So, yeah. Backgrounds, environment. In order to enable large amounts of scrolling, images designed to be used with Godot's Parallax 2D function are included. You can learn about 2D parallax here. Yeah, so Godot, you can use large images, just a straight up picture. You don't have to do like with Pixel Game Maker. In Pixel Game Maker, you can design parallaxing with just a tile set. And I think you can still do that here, but you can also use images. So if you just want images in the background that scroll and repeat and all that kind of good stuff, you can do that too. Included are two backgrounds, a sky-heavy outdoor environment and a skyless cave environment with multiple layers. For very distant use in the most background layer, the outdoor image is 720 by 1152, and the interior image is 720 by 576. For middle distance backgrounds, such as mountains, both the interior and outdoor images are 720 by 576. For backgrounds nearest to the player, such as ones that include the ground, the outdoor version is 720 by 1152, and the interior version is 720 by 1728. So they're kind of tall, and you can have different resolutions, I guess. I wish they would release more video footage of stuff being either worked on or created and functioning and everything. They don't really show a whole lot yet. Not yet. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Audio, background music, and sound effects. The included assets are all in the OGG format. While WAV, OGG, and MP3 are all supported formats, OGG was chosen due to the reasonable file size and ease of looping provided by the format. While the default OGG metadata, loop start, etc. are not supported, I'm pretty sure I tested this in Godot and they do work. I'm not sure. We'll see. It is still possible to create specific loops manually using offsets. Please check the Godot documentation for more information about supported audio formats. Again, I'm going to have to do a completely different video on this. I'm just going to have to. Just going to have to. And then we have video. The only video format supported by Action Game Maker is OGV OGG Theora. H.264 and H.265 codec videos. While a popular format, are not currently supported by Godot due to Godot's structure as an open source engine. Some additional information can be found in the Godot documentation. And that's all there is to know about the default assets included with Action Game Maker. While we tried to keep it simple today, I think this gives you an idea of how versatile will be? I think you mean how versatile the software will be, W-I-L-L, will be thanks to the power of Godot. While the included assets focus on a pixel-style side view action game, it should be possible to create a variety of games using these assets, especially if you start creating your own assets. And that was our goal for today, to give future Action Game Maker developers information needed to get started on getting assets prepared. That's all for today. Unfortunately, we're not quite ready to share the release date, but I can tell you that we're still working hard during this holiday season. Our next letter will be in January, so I hope everyone is able to enjoy the holidays while they wait. Have a happy new year. Now, that was a lot, and this video was way longer than I wanted it to be. I'm going to do a separate video discussing each of the basically the links where they talk about the plugins and everything more. I'm going to do a separate video to that, just going over each one. So you might have to come back and reference this video, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this page itself. I'm going to spend more time on each linked individual thing. And if I did that in this video, it would be way too long. It's already over 25 minutes. It's like almost 27 minutes now. So, I'm not completely thrilled with this software. We don't know a lot yet. We'll see what happens in the next few months. Maybe it'll be something I want to use. I might end up sticking with Pixel Game Maker, but this is not the first time something like this has happened. This is not the first time something like this has happened before. Where a successor to one software was so off-putting for me that I didn't bother with it again. This happened with RPG Maker. When we got to RPG Maker MV, I was done. I can't remember where I was. I had to pause again. But yeah, no, I'm going to do another video. I'm going to talk about this separately. I'm going to go over each of these and try and figure them out, because it feels like I'm going to have to. It's bad enough I hate the Godot interface. Godot has such a horrible interface that it's for technical people. It's not for casual people, and it drives me crazy. This has been The Goof, and I'm out. Have a good one.